Some terminologies, you obviously you'll have them on the slide deck, but browsing through because we'll be using it, and we have to differentiate these terminologies. First, on multi-channel, what does multi-channel mean? It means we operate different channels as an organization, but we treat them separately. And this has been sort of like the beginning of the internet era, if you wanted. Businesses had a traditional retail store and they had a website, but it didn't talk to each other. If you went to the website and you went to the retail store, your experience as a consumer was vastly different. At the beginning, that didn't really matter at all because we didn't know it any better as consumers and we didn't have much expectations. Today, this has changed. And sort of like the example I use for this is if you go to an automotive site, traditionally, I always do this with BMW or Mercedes. You configure a car online, and then you're done. And so what? Then you have to go to a dealership and do the whole thing again. Well, finally, now moving into omni-channel, which means connecting your different channels to provide a seamless customer experience, which means the consumer or customer can switch and change channels as one pleases, and the experience ideally would continue, wouldn't be broken, right? This sounds easier than it is to be done. However, in my example with automotive now, if you go to a website of most of the automotives, you configure a car, you can save the configuration, and you can either send it to a dealership or you can pull it up from a dealership. So you can continue with what you've done on product level in different channels that are provided to guide you through the process. Now, there's still a lot of room for improvement and further integration and providing more value for the consumer. But this requires a lot of work on behalf of the organization, a lot of analysis, and mainly a lot of understanding of the consumer and of the market. And this is mostly the part where a lot of organizations drop the ball, right? This brings us to the next terminology that we have here, unified commerce. We can just leave it for now in this class as the technology that powers the whole thing, the backbone for your e-commerce structure and or for your customer data and so on and so forth. Let's just keep it as technology. Then we have a term called new retail. This is truly something coming out of Asia, particularly China. Why? Because some of the main tech platforms, mainly Alibaba, they have pushed sort of like the notion of digitalization into physical retail at hyper speed. And that has given rise to the term new retail, which is truly like providing a very tech-enabled, innovative physical retail experience. And I'll show you examples of this today. They have done this for years and years and years, so they're truly, truly advanced. And this has recreated an experience for the consumer that elevates your physical shopping and actually makes it fun, to be honest. Then the two on the right, show roaming and web roaming, you would have found them in Google terminology as the ROPO effect, research online, purchase offline, or purchase research offline and purchase online, right? So the one is show roaming, which means you go to a physical store, you check out product, might be a shoe, we've all done it, clothing or shoes, right? We try it on, then we check on the phone if we can find it somewhere cheaper, and we're gonna buy it online. The other one is web roaming. We find a product online, but delivery time, for example, would take too long or it's too expensive or whatever. We go to a physical store and we buy the product. And again, it shows the notion of switching, and it also kind of shows consumer empowerment through a degree of market transparency, price, delivery, timing, availability, so far and so forth, right? These terminologies will be part of everything going forward. Now, if we look at the two most important terminologies here, multi-channel and omni-channel, you will note that one is not connected, having different channels, and the other one is connected. Now, obviously, it's not a 1-0. That's not a binary. You're not multi-channel today, and tomorrow you're omni-channel because you connect. There's usually a path an organization go through from the purest form of multi-channel to the purest form or the highest form of omni-channel. And that development path is best shown in the so-called omnichannel continuum. Um, I've linked here to the research piece that uses it and that has about that one. I quite like it. I'm not sure if it provides too much value for an organization, other than saying we are on a development path, and that development path will need support by the organization, and that support will be manifold, right? So let's have a look at it. This model defines 4 stages of the omni-channel continuum, and therefore 4 strategies that will be applied, but let's forget the strategies, right? So stage 1 is you are fully unconnected, which means both on a vertical side, which means the customer's perspective, the customer journey, if you want, customers go through in searching, acquiring, using, and disposing of a product, for example, and on the horizontal side, which is the channels you're using, right? We could call this to some extent the multi-channel, the not well done multi-channel, because you treat everything completely separately, and because the customer experience won't be the greatest. Now, if we move to the horizontal connection or horizontal strategy, if you want, you will see we start to connect channels. So online and offline will be connected. However, there's a break within the customer journey. That's an incomplete approach to multi-channel. That is probably also not going to lead to the best customer experience, because you, from search, finding solutions to acquiring solutions, you have a break in the experience, that might create redundancies, that might create time wastings, and just annoyance on customer level. You could probably measure with the customer satisfaction measure a drop in satisfaction between stages, because redundancies never get a customer happy in any way, shape, or form. When it gets to the vertical and to the complete, I mean, it's just a step. I'm not sure how much it serves. You will see we start to integrate channels across the customer journey, and in the complete form, everything's per se connected with everything, which means there's an infinite number of options a customer could move through and have a seamless experience. Obviously, the complete form is the most complicated and it's the hardest to ever achieve. Why? Because the customer journey would define which channels the customer is using. So there might be new ones coming to the model that you will have to start to reintegrate, going backwards in the model and going through the process again and again and again. But you only notice these channels if you have dynamic marketing capabilities that will inform you about channels coming up that you would have to integrate, maybe drop some others or keep them for different target groups that you have. And you will see it becomes a portfolio of omni-channel operations that you will have to have in mind and orchestrate to provide all of your target groups the most seamless experience that you could ever have. Obviously, the determinant for this entire approach is and has to be the market. And we said before, the main drivers for change from our perspective are technology and behavioral changes on the consumer. I think that's quite nicely reflected here. And all of this will determine, obviously, should, per marketing process, your marketing strategy, which in turn will have to be reflected in your approach to channels, which these days almost has to be omni-channel to provide a superior customer experience. Now, as I said before, this isn't easy, and it's easy to talk about in a lecture, but doing this in real life is kind of like your SAP implementation. It sounds great, it looks very promising, but it's almost guaranteed to fail when you start. And that means you have to have some iterative process to go through. And it probably makes sense to apply some like agile frameworks to be able to do that implementation from a technical perspective, which again gives rise to the notion we need to partner with IT to get stuff like this done. Marketers are not good at implementing processes and or technologies, at least not thus far. And that gives us an insight into why an omnichannel experience might be valuable. Why it gets us to ask, why is an omnichannel experience actually valuable? Why might consumers demand it in the first place? And a potential way to answer this question is looking at the service dominant logic. And you'll find it under SDL in a lot of academic papers and literature. And what the service dominant logic does, it it showcases how customer value is not generated by a product or a service per se alone, but by the experience to acquire the product or perceive the service, right? So the customer becomes a co-creator of the entire delivery process. We're not going into into details of the model because I think it's quite self-explanatory. But this will mean, if we look at the omni-channel approach and the stages we've just seen, that we have to think about the service dominant logic within our channel strategy to provide that seamless experience, right? And that will mean we have to think holistically, not channel siloed, to understand what a customer's doing. Let's think of retail apparel, no? For this matter, right? Let's assume you walk into a retail store and you look at a pair of pants. Let's just say it's me. I would walk in and I'm looking for jeans my size, right? So I find jeans, but I can't find my size. What do? I will ask a service rep in the store to maybe help me. Now that service rep is busy. I have to wait. Jesus Christ, now I'm annoyed. What could happen? I check on my phone, right? Maybe the store would have an app. It would be somehow connected. The website would have more information, and I could find if they have pants my size in the store, and if not, if I could order it to the store or have it even delivered to my place to try it at home, which would increase the value perceived because I wouldn't have to come back. But you see what has happened in this very rudimentary example. I have now become part of the delivery process by taking over these co-creating steps, right? Myself, I become active. I become an actor involved in the service dominant logic process. And in contrast, of course, we have the traditional goods dominant perspective, which treats per se channel separately, so that really lends itself well to omnichannel. We don't go into detail because it's really the past, and that leads traditionally, of course, to channel conflicts. We have seen this on the very beginnings of the emergence of e-commerce, where companies have started e-commerce channel, and that e-commerce channel has really been in competition with a traditional retail, quite often leading to cannibalization effects that were unwanted and harmed the overall business. Right? That's the call to start to synthesize your channel strategy into one and provide a seamless experience. Another perspective that we could have and apply would be the customer experience management perspective, more as a managerial framework to emphasize on how we need to orchestrate all different touch points, right? So maybe something else you could be looking at if you want to deep dive a bit in this aspect. But let's just look at an example, and I think usually these examples help us to grasp the theory and see what's going on. And we spoke about Walmart in one of the prior sessions. I remember one of you asking, hey, how is Walmart going to be as a player in the future and are going to be threatened by platforms? We discovered that Walmart is one of the biggest e-commerce players on the planet, operate thousands of stores, omnipresent in the US, but growing present internationally, 300 plus stores in Africa, so far and so forth, 250 million customers a week, and, just absolute insanity. Although they fly kind of like behind or below the surface a bit. But if you look at Walmart, excuse me, and what they do, we will see they have quite an interesting omni-channel strategy. But it's an omni-channel strategy that we call a retrofitted omni-channel strategy. Why is that? Because Walmart, like many other retailers in the Western world, they have a fairly long tradition. So they're old businesses compared to a lot of businesses in, for example, China. So they have had traditional product-oriented business processes and infrastructures. which they retrofitted over time to apply not just the service dominant logic, but also the notion of a true omnichannel presence. And the way Walmart does it, as one of the examples, if you go to the Walmart website or subsites of Walmart, you can find products. And if you look at on product level, you can see where the product could be delivered to for pickup. And this is called BOPIS, buy online, pickup in store. Now, you'd think that this is not necessarily something um, that consumers today value that much, right? Buy online and pick up in a store. But you'd be surprised. Some retailers have a up to 95% buy online, delivered to a store for pickup customer behavior. And why would that be? Because customers do not want to wait for fulfillment, right? And if your store system or your store infrastructure is tightly and neatly built, delivery or availability in store will be much higher than it is by going through mail or other forms of delivery. And that could call a customer for, I don't want to wait, deliver in store, go pick up the same day, or maybe even within the hour or below, right? So that really blurs the line between online business and offline business, and I think kind of shows in what blended world we truly live in these days. And Walmart has gone above and beyond in many ways, like some other retail stores or online retail stores that we find globally, which have now curbside pickup, so you don't have to go in the store. You can just go there. Some have a drive-through pickup or 24-hour delivery or pickup stations, right? Which is absolutely interesting, I believe. Another example that I want to look at with you is Zara, a retail fashion brand from Spain. And they have taken a different approach. They have digitalized their retail stores. And this should now be a very, very interesting case as well, because it's a bit of a contrast. It's also a feedback system to the store to learn about fashion and trends and truly capture customer data, which will be used in the intelligence engine to create new product. All right. So let's have a look-see at this.
Buenos dias. This is Amitalk Retail coming to you live from Madrid, Spain. I'm Ann Mazinga.
And I'm Chris Walton.
And we're standing outside of Zara's flagship store.
That's right, Ann. We are in Madrid, and we are going to show you guys an inside look at what is quite honestly the most advanced omni-channel retail apparel experience that we have seen to date. And here is exactly why.
First off, the store is massive, totaling approximately 82,000 square feet and covering 4 floors in total, with a back of house that is designed into the operations of the building, as you'll see. It features men's, women's, kids, lingerie, beauty, and much, much more. As soon as we enter the store, you can tell there is just something different about it. There's a placard on the wall with a QR code asking patrons to discover what the store is all about. The store offers a wide array of interesting.
This is called boarding, right? So likewise, in a computer game, you have to board consumers to the new experience. And in that very case, that new experience might be not something that consumers know. QR code is now starting to be established all over the world as sort of like an easy way to bridge the entry into a digital sphere. And what does that mean? You can now explain to consumers which services you provide additionally to what they use to in traditional retail. And in that very example, what is it? You can collect shopping, online shopping in the store within a certain time period, as we've seen with Walmart. But they take it a bit further, right? You can now locate articles in the store. That was my example that I had before. Do they have the jeans in my size? And if so, where are they? Now with this app, I can actually locate these articles and it would guide me to the place in the store where I would find them. And but what is it? What happens when you have a pair of jeans? you need to try them on, right? At least I have to. And that means I have to find a fitting room. Nothing's more annoying than waiting to be able to go into a fitting room because they're all occupied. Now they do let you book a fitting room while in the store. So you select your items and you book a fitting room and you unlock it with the app and you can try your stuff on. And last but not least, and this is also very interesting because it creates a more seamless experience. Now that you are in the fitting room and you like the jeans and they fit you, you would have to go to a register, right? And then queue, and there's like 15 people in front of you, and some have stupid questions. Oh, come on, I just want to buy a jeans. Now you can just take that jeans, scan it yourself, pay it, and leave the store, right? Service dominant logic. You see how much the customer becomes part of the delivery process under the notion they apply here. I don't show the rest of the video because it will go a couple of minutes and we really don't never have the time because we have short sessions. But if you check it on YouTube, you'll find the clip. I think it's fascinating what has been done here. But if you look a bit further, we see the future, and the future is what I said before, new retail, which is happening in China. Now, very important, compared to the retrofitting approach that a lot of retailers have to go through in the Western world, Chinese retailers have sort of like an advantage because the retail infrastructure doesn't have this, long tradition. The growth in China happened more or less recently, last 20, 30 years, really, like on hyperscale, which means a lot of retail infrastructure is truly new. So they could have built that new infrastructure already with the idea in mind to create a more seamless, innovative experience. And one of these experiences is coming, as we said before, from Alibaba, who's also given rise to the term new retail. And they have created these stores called the Hema stores. It's kind of like a supermarket if you want, but that supermarket provides an experience like you've never, ever, ever seen before. So what you need to have to go into the supermarket is obviously your phone, because nothing works without a phone. But your phone will then become the communication device with the store, meaning you see products, you can scan the labels, it will show the ingredients, it will show you what you can do with it, it will give you information about where it comes from, the freshness of the product. It also lets you put it in a basket digitally, so you don't have to take it with you. And when you check out at the store, everything you put in your basket will be delivered on rails on top of the store, so the store is also the warehouse, and be delivered to you. You can buy products in the store and take them or have them delivered, depending on the way you want it. I'll show this in a second, to a kitchen in the store so that you can consume the fresh produce you have just selected, cooked by a chef, right? This is truly, truly elevating experience to a new level. And if you think about it, the more consumers stay in your store, the more time and choice and options they perceive to actually also consume in the store. So it makes a lot of sense to create an experience that consumers are actually willingly adopting, right, from a retail perspective. Now, spoke about the integration. Okay, that's right. So let's look at an example, because that just speaks more than 1,000 words. All right. Now, stopping this quickly. Again, if you look at this from service dominant logic, you see how much the consumer becomes part of the process. But if the process is well designed and seems to be value delivering to the consumer, it is incredibly eagerly adopted. These stores are super popular in China. That you find them in all urban areas, and they're always full. It's absolute blast to be shopping there because it doesn't create a hassle. It's a pure experience. And as I said before, if you want to have the product delivered to your home, and you live close to the store, you have a guaranteed 30-minute delivery window, which means most likely your produce will be home before you are. So it's almost like a challenge to make it home, to be able to put the stuff in the fridge as quickly as it's being delivered. All right. Why are we looking at focusing or emphasizing this omnichannel experience so much? Because we have learned that omnichannel, of course, not just drives a consistent experience, but consistency drives customer satisfaction, and customer satisfaction gives rise to the notion of loyalty. Now, please keep in mind that, of course, in the past, we have, in past sessions, we have challenged the concept of loyalty and said, in your research, particularly again the Ehrenberg boss, we have started to understand that loyalty per se is not given, but we have heavy consumers and lighter consumers. And all of the consumers, or most consumers, are not geniusly loyal to a brand, but every now and then consume something else. And this is totally okay for us. What we want to have is reach the maximum amount of consumers that are important to us. Now, if you create such an experience, what do you think will happen? If you have these robots and deliver food to you and it's a great experience and you have fun doing it, you will film it, right? You take pictures, you share it online. What are you doing? You create earned media. Remember the media formats we spoke about before? This is exactly what's happening through these experiences, right? So your consumers become the advertising channel for your business, for your platform, for whatever it is you are. And that, of course, pushes reach to new consumers and gives rise to the notion of exactly what Ehrenberg Boss tells us: mental availability and physical availability. One is that you control, the other one is what you push upwards with the help of consumers. But of course, all of these approaches do not come without challenges, and some of the challenges are obvious. For example, channel conflicts. We have mentioned it before, particularly if you establish new channels. Older channel structures are usually not incredibly happy about it because they fear cannibalization. That might be part of their revenue stream, that might be part of their KPI system. So you need not just to think about a channel strategy, but also a process to make sure the culture of the organization and prior processes get adopted in a way that they allow the new objectives to happen or to manifest themselves, right? Then logistics complexity. If you think about the HEMA stores we've just seen, you can probably imagine how complex it's going to be that I walk through the store, pick up stuff, and when I go to the kitchen, my food is prepared for me, ideally, right? So no waiting time. That requires an insane level of logistics handling. Fortunately, I would say these days we have the technology to do logistics handling, but this is not a marketing capability. For this, you need either operations within in-house or external providers to help you provide that experience. But this cannot be the letdown, right? If you promise 30-minute delivery windows, you have to deliver within 30 minutes. Otherwise, what do? You do exactly what we do not want to ever have in marketing. You would overpromise and underdeliver. That's a no-go. That's marketing 101. It's the first lesson of marketing. Never overpromise and underdeliver. The last 2 points, of course, data and data integration. That means data handling, data storage, data analysis, and not just analysis, but making sense of the data and reapplying it to the business, right? To make sure that the experience is truly seamless. Just collecting data by itself is not fulfilling a purpose. It's just creating costs on the IT side, right? The last one, RE attribution, is of course kind of related to the channel conflicts we mentioned before. what is creating the value in the organization? Is it the logistics? Is it this in-store experience? How does it come together? How can you prove this from an ROI perspective? And this is where your attribution model comes into place, that you can start to dig down and separate the value providing parts, if you want, within the organization, start to measure them, and then, through a model, create an understanding of how value is being created and delivered, and for which parts consumers are actually paying for, in a sense, right? Which could you then drop and or change, and which ones do you need to keep and even emphasize more in the future to provide a better experience that you can justify also within the organization, right? And now towards the end, we come to something I think very interesting. When we speak about custom experiences in omnichannel strategies and the ingrainment of technologies into these experiences, we have a whole new flood of technologies that can be used and provide new forms of channels to interact with the consumer. And one, of course, is mobile apps or super apps. Super apps is more or less what we have in China with WeChat and so on and so forth. Apps I don't have to explain, right? That's what we saw with the Zara experience. The other one is, of course, analytics. So using data to the advantage of the business to find new ways of identifying value and or providing value. And of course, AI as part of the analytical process and or as part of providing that service dominant logic approach to the consumer, right? And the other ones I show you in a second. And this one you see here with Qatar Airways. So they have implemented this, what do you call this? This AI chatbot type lady that you can engage with if you go on the Qatar Airways site and look for something, right? And it has pros and cons. I think the idea of having a virtual assistant is great, right? Just think of saving service time, reducing bottlenecks in the organization, providing each consumer a service assistant for his or her booking, right? That's a great idea. However, the experience at this point is still a bit iffy, if you think about it, because this is a screenshot that I took, right? So I spoke to the lady. I don't know what she's called anymore. It says somewhere, I think, on the slide, but it doesn't matter. Sama. So I spoke to Sama and I said, "Hey, I want a flight to Guangzhou in China, starting from Frankfurt." And I had a typo. Instead of Frankfurt, I typed Frankfurt. Can you help me with this? And it said, certainly, for payment options with Qatar Airways, you can use PayPal, Alipay, and whatnot. That wasn't what I'm asking. I was asking for a freaking flight to Guangzhou, and he told me about the payment options, right? Great idea, great intention. It just horribly, horribly failed. That didn't provide me any better experience. It's great for me because I knew it would happen and I could screenshot for this class, right? Remember, just because we have new technologies, new toys, doesn't mean we have to push them into the face of our consumer. Somebody at Qatar Airways should surely come up with the idea to maybe ask Sama, their virtual assistant, for a flight destination and get an answer that is anywhere related to the question in the first place, right? If that would have been correct, probably a great experience. In that very case, it's a tremendous ball drop. Other experiences that have been created in the marketing universe are, of course, metaverse experiences. And they have gone down a bit in sort of like importance over the last 2 or 3 years, mainly because AI has has gotten all this hype and attention, and we truly haven't found a way to get into the world of the metaverse in a truly value-providing fashion. But there's a couple of experiences you can try and test, and one that you see here is the Hugo Boss, so the fashion brand's metaverse experience, if you want. If you scan the QR code, you can go. It'll take you to the metaverse experience of the fashion brand. It's an absolute dreadful experience here because you'll be alone, and they haven't updated this